to Armenia. It'll be a fun opening to the show anyway, talking about it. Good listening.
Absolutely. Look, first game to cover was a little bit more positive in the Hungary match at home. Now, look, it couldn't have started any worse. I think within the first 15 minutes we were 2-0 down. With goals from the Ferencváros striker. His name actually escapes me now, but he's a decent little player, and yeah, he scored the first goal for them anyway, and it was really an uphill battle from there. However, I do think on a positive note, that second half, like I'm not gonna go back on what I was saying after the match. I was really encouraged by it. I thought it was a really good second half. Um, like that, it kind of showed a lot of character, I suppose, to come back from 2-0. Now look, the red card probably helped us, but at the same time we were still very much in the ascendancy even before that red card came into action. If anything, I think that red card might have even galvanised Hungary a little bit, because it gave them the emphasis to sit back more and to waste more time and make life even more difficult for Ireland. So I think we showed a lot of character. We On the balance of play, look, Kelleher made a lot of good saves. Again, he was given man of the match by RTE, so I'm not sure. Could we really say that it was the best display in the world from? Did Ireland deserve to win? I think a draw was probably fair and the full balance of things, but the fact that whenever you don't beat a team with 10 men, it's going to feel like you should pick up the 3 points or whatever, or get into the next round or whatever your situation is. So yeah, it's ultimately then Armenia. I mean, what more can be said? Just honestly, I never thought I'd see a worse performance in my lifetime supporting Ireland than the Luxembourg match. But in my opinion, that was way worse than Luxembourg. Like, for those first 10 minutes, we were actually quite good, but I don't think we were even that good. I think Armenia were just really low in confidence and poor after that Portugal game. But then we kind of stood off them and kind of became comfortable, and you just saw an overflow of pressure um, from Armenia. They actually grew in confidence, and by the end, they were nearly playing tiki taka stuff. They actually were playing really well. But yeah, it's just terrible. Like, as Jamie said, 105th in the world. I'm going to let Jamie in here because I could go on all day about how horrible it was. But yeah, Jamie, what's your kind of synopsis of the two matches just gone by?
Yeah, the Hungary game. I was confident going into the game, as I am at the start of every international window. Whether that be delusion or what. Um, I think after the first 15 minutes, you probably said if you were offered a point after 15 minutes, you take it all day. Then maybe 60 minutes gone, where you're only trailing by one, but they're down to 10 men, and you're putting on loads of pressure. You're thinking, no, we could probably go and win this. But I think grand scheme of things, a point's probably fair considering how bad we were in the first 15 minutes. And then I was positive. I thought the shape was weird. I spoke to you privately about that beforehand. I thought there was a lot of players playing out of position. One of the weird things in the game was Jacob O'Brien's throw-ins, which continued in the Armenia game. They sort of stopped towards the back end of the match, and I think that's probably why we got the equaliser, because he started taking them short, he started taking them quicker, and we get crosses into the box that would actually beat the first man. And then Armenia was just it was pathetic. Like, we lost to Armenia 3 years ago in what was a extremely disappointing game. But that was a game you felt we could have won. I don't think there's any argument we could have won last night. Like, there's more of an argument Armenia could have won by 5 goals. Keller was fantastic. Um, like, it's so weird. I don't like the argument we don't have the players, because we have better players than Armenia. Like Nathan Collins, I rate Nathan Collins very highly. I do. I think he's fantastic. I think he's one of the best non-big six centre backs in the Premier League. He's probably top three in that particular category, even though it's quite specific. Um, he's had one good game for Ireland, one good half for Ireland in the last year, and that was the first half against England where he was playing in midfield. Um, Now I think there's reasons to that. I think the midfield is also abysmal. It's just not physically up there. It's not technically up there, and it's again weird because Josh Cullen's a Premier League footballer. Jason and I played every minute of the Championship, so it's a case of like players not performing for their country when they're performing for their club. Because the only players that looked half decent were Kelleher and Evan Ferguson. And Amita came on, he looked alright, looked dangerous. but I wouldn't say it was because he's a very good player. I was just think he was playing to the best of his ability. I don't think Adam Eid is a great footballer, but he was playing against Armenia. He should look better than the rest. But then the rest of them were just, I mean, it was an embarrassing moment for Irish football.
I'd agree with every word there. Like particularly, yeah, no, just everything. I think you're spot on. It was just a shocking display. And I would actually the point I'd agree most on is on players. I've heard a lot that in defence of I suppose Heimer, who I really like Hallgrimsson, but in defence of him, it's like, oh, we have the players. We don't have the players. Sorry, but if you actually look at the team, there's four Premier League level players. There's one in Serie A had a really good start in Serie A. You've also got Troy Parrott, who's like one of the best strikers in the Netherlands, who's injured, and then the rest of the 11 is pretty much all the high end championship. You know, when Stephen Kenny was in charge for years ago, and I don't think Kenny was a particularly great manager for Ireland anyway. But you know, most of the team was made up of Championship players and League One players, with maybe one or two in the Premier League. So, yeah, I'm like, I think this might be. We've agreed very much so far. I think this might be one point of disagreement is on Heimer. Personally, and I really like him. As I said, I think he's like a great fella, and he's always welcome back in Ireland for a point or whatever. But I don't think I don't think he can continue. But what do you think on that? Do you think, because I'm not sure, do we agree on that? So what do you think?
I suppose like it's a very similar squad to the squad Kenny had, but they're all older. Like Kenny had a young squad, and this is not an old squad either. They're still kind of not there yet, but I think that's only
Mm.
another excuse. Um, where I differ in Kenny and Heimer is I like the response Heimer's given. Kenny would never take responsibility. Heimer's put a lot of blame on himself, which I respect a lot. Like he was very angry after the Hungary game. He thought that's a game we should have been winning, and obviously even worse last night. That's I mean it's just hard. Like I mean I think last night that's on the players. Like that was just an abysmal performance. I mean you give Jose Mourinho time to set up that team and they play like that, they're never winning a game. Like they were just really bad. That was nothing tactical. Like that was just pathetic. Like it was awful. Like yeah, I don't see how you can blame the manager for that. I blame him more for the Hungry game. I thought he set up weird the first couple of minutes. He kind of changed things in the second half. We looked a lot better, but I thought yesterday was on the players.
Yeah, it's a very fair point. It's very valid. The only slight rebuttal I would have would be I do think the shape of four midfielders essentially with kind of well no we set up more of as a 3-5-2 I suppose, but it was kind of Taylor, Cullen and Knight with I suppose Azaz was kind of up front or as a bit of a false striker even. I thought that was a little bit strange as well. I'm not like I know Taylor is doing quite well in the championship so far this season, but I still don't know is he the right option necessarily. However, look, potentially, it's hard to argue though. With the performance was so incredibly bad that you could get any manager in there and they probably wouldn't do much better. So, yeah, it's a lot has to change, an awful lot has to change, and I do think, for what it's worth, I think Heimer will, see out the end of his contract until the end of this campaign, unless we pull off some sort of miracle and beat Portugal twice now, and maybe beat Hungary. I don't think he's going to stay around after that. But look, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, it's obviously extremely disappointing. But yeah, that's about it. We just have, before we get on to the League of Ireland, we actually had this up in our Twitter, our X, today actually. So if you want to give your own insight into this, go to LOI, I believe _talk on X, Twitter, and you can give your insight. Our question is, if you could pick any League of Ireland player to currently play for this Ireland side, who would it be? I'll let you go first, Jamie, if you don't mind. Who's your player? Who would you choose?
Like look, I already said I think the midfield's abysmal.
Yeah,
I think there's genuinely 4 or 5 League of Ireland players that I would put in that midfield. Like I think you create a whole midfield. The one I'm going to go with in particular is Jamie Lennon of St. Pat's. I think we need that sort of defensive-minded midfielder. I would be of the belief that a six makes your team. Now he's not a world beater, he's not a Rodri, but I think he is the equivalent to Rodri of the League of Ireland. I think he is the best the league has to offer in that position. Maybe Matt Healy, but I don't think he's quite that profile. Um, he would be the player I'd look at. I would look at Keane Levy as well at Pats. I would look at Matt Healy. Kerr McIlroy is Scottish, I believe, but he's another player.
Yeah.
If we're going League of Ireland player, not Irish player, he's also someone where I'd consider, but we'll stick to specifically Irish players. I think there's a host of players I'd have over Josh Cullen. I think he's absolutely dreadful. And I've always thought that. I've seen him play one good game in his entire career, and that was in the championship against Huddersfield like 3 years ago. I'm being deadly serious by that. I think he's dreadful. He's dreadful. Like I'm a big Jason Malumbe guy. I mean, I know we're switching kind of topics back to the old one. I don't know how he's not in the League of Ireland squad. Like,
Mm.
what was the name of the Hungary defensive midfielder I was talking to you about on Saturday? He plays for
Callum
West Brom
Scott, yeah,
alongside.
I
He
believe.
plays for West Brom alongside Malumbe. They both do really well together. He's starting for Hungary. Why isn't Malumbe starting for us? Like the
Mm.
the only good midfield performance I can remember from an Irish player for Ireland in the last 5 years was Malumbe against France when we lost 1-0.
Yeah,
That's the only one that sticks out anyway.
good
Maybe
shout.
the big players have been good, but I don't think anyone's been standout or I don't think we've had a midfielder that's been our best player in a match for 5 years.
It's actually a really good shout. Yeah, I don't see why Malumbi isn't in the squad. Like, especially when we have so much attackers. Like Johnny Kenny. Take Johnny Kenny. I love Johnny Kenny. I think he actually has a big future. Obviously, the League of Ireland connection as well. But let's be honest, he's not going to get a game over Ferguson or Ida. So why, what harm would it be to put Malumbi in the squad? But to go back to the League of Ireland question anyway. Um, yeah, Jamie Lennon's genuinely a really good shout. I've admired him for a long time. At Pats. He was very integral to their European runs over the last few years, as well as their cup victory a few years ago. I think that was 2021 or two. But yeah, personally, I would go for Matt Healy purely for the reason that he's a little bit younger. Now, not that much younger actually. I think he's 23. I think Lennon might be 26 or 7, but he's a little bit younger anyway. And I agree with you that he's not quite the same profile as Lennon, and we probably actually need Lennon's profile more as a pure six. Healy is more like he's played as a six for Rovers this year, but his best position really is kind of a deep lying eight, if that makes sense. But I just think his ceiling is higher. I see him. I think maybe Lennon could have got a big move a few years ago if he wanted to, and he could be playing in Europe or the Championship now. I think he's that good, but unfortunately, that ship is probably sailed now. So I see Matt Healy, having a very good Conference League campaign and potentially getting a big move to Europe or to the Championship or something like that. And then I think now, ideally, I want a merit-based system. Like, I don't want people in the squad they play for um, just because they play for a certain club. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, that is how managers look at it. They do look at who's playing for which club. But I just think basically just to also justify my Matt Healy choice, I just think he is just like head and shoulders like probably one of the best midfielders in the league. And I would potentially look at now. This is probably a long time down the line. To be fair, you probably couldn't have this as our midfield pivot in the next international break, let's say. But I would like to see eventually Bass and Lowell integrated into the team, and I think Matt Healy would work really well alongside him in a pivot. So because I agree, I that was really like very specific, that performance you picked out from Josh Cullen, but I can't think of a particularly good performance from him either. To be honest, I know maybe Sunderland in game week 2 in the Premier League this season, he scored a nice goal, but I didn't actually watch that game, so I can't say he played well or not. Yeah, but what I will say about Cullen is I think he's extremely weak physically, and having him as your lone six is just it's not going to end well at all. Which is what Ireland have basically been doing for the last like 5 years. However, I think I'd like to see Cullen being given a chance beside a really physical guy like a Bassin Lowell, maybe as that other six in the pivot, because I don't think he's bad technically. I think he's able to retain the ball, and you might disagree, but I just think he's okay technically. So maybe if he was given a bit more freedom in the midfield, could he be a little bit better? But I don't know. The reality is, would he even be that much better than Jason Knight in that department? So is there even a point to doing that? I don't know. Um, so yeah, that's kind of like my thoughts on it. But so yeah, please let us know down below. Let us know on Twitter. Who would you have in our or it doesn't have to be midfielder, it can be anyone. Obviously, there's a really strong shout for Josh Honahan as well, but he kind of med the squad. But there's even a shout for him to start. Just thinking of other players, I mean, like Mason Melia, he's going to be in the squad eventually. Same for Michael Noonan. Same for I mean, I saw someone posting, can we get Milan and Beng an Irish passport? So yeah, there's a few for sure that could find their way into the squad over the next few months. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Yeah, we'll just have to see how it goes and hope for the best for the national team. And we'll be back in, what is it, 2027 for the 28 Euros, and maybe that'd be easier to qualify for. I don't know, Damien Duff as manager or whatever. But I don't think we're getting to the World Cup, unfortunately, which is very